gonna kind of look at it. Like, where's the zone? Right down the edge of the vision barrier. It's gonna be, you know, something like I gotta cross that line. I can do it up there. I can do it back there. Also, my feet don't have to be across that line. What has to be across the line? Gun and eye, right? So like if I get here, I'm still good, right? So that's it's. We'll see how like thinking about that positioning very specifically. It's gonna be more important here in a minute. Where else do I gotta go?
Over there.
Over here.
You gotta dig.
Again, pretty big zone. I'm gonna block that window. I forgot to do that. But again, if I look down the edge of this, like again, I have a pretty big zone that's gonna come, you know, way back there somewhere. Okay, where else?
You gotta dig in. I'll let other people talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right up here?
Up here, right? And most specifically up here, probably for that really far target, right? That's where that zone gets the tightest, for that one back around the nose shoot. So I look down the edge of that bad boy, like I really gotta get, you know, pretty much fully in that corner to hit that one. What else?
Over there.
Okay, why right there? Well, that one's a huge zone. I mean, those targets I can get from all the way back here if I want to.
So it's not a thorn.
Yeah, it's kind of a massive whole slice of the stage. How about this steel though?
So, yes.
Yeah, it's a one little row right here.
Super specific. Yeah, good point, Owen. Big zone, right? So again, this is not X marks the spot. Big zone. It goes back to where, by the way?
All the way down.
Essentially the start position, right? So as an example, like this is obviously probably the tightest position on the whole stage, in the sense of, let's imagine as an example, I was just talking about these slices. Let's say I was shooting my way into those targets and then I'm gonna hit the steel, as an example. It would be very, very easy to come in on this paper and then be like, ah, shit, I have to come back to overrun that position,
Sure.
right? Do I want to at least be aware of the fact? Obviously it's farther away, there's all sorts of things to think about, but I could literally stand in start position, looking at the steel,
Yeah.
right, and go ding and be done with it, right? Again, I'm not saying that's the best plan right off, but like, do I want to be aware of that as an option? 100%, 100%. So, but again, I look at what target, I think about, you know, there's gonna be a zone, something like that. It's gonna go way back, really tight, narrow spot that I need to be in to get that steel, and really to have the whole steel available, I essentially need to be in the middle of it. All right, so very, very tight position. And then I've kind of got one over here as well. This may not being as tight. I may make that a little bit tighter, actually. But we're gonna have to be over here, kind of in this corner, somewhere to get that. So that wall, I think, shifted just a touch.
Oh, he's making harder.
Well, he wants to use the one thing, not that.
See what that does.
Oh.
Yeah.
You gotta dig the corner hard.
I'll try to make it impossible.
Draw it on the edge of the.
That's good. A-zone.
Woo!
That's tough.
Yeah, that's
You
real
don't
good.
want- you don't
Okay.
want-
Correct. So those are kind of our positions, right? And we can also now include, obviously the start position is going to be toe touching marks on that rear fault line. And then we've got essentially the four corners of the stage with one really tight zone that we have to get to for what I would consider kind of a total of 5, like sort of force positions around the stage. So now we're going to think about what is the most efficient path through those forced positions. How would we define that? When I mean most efficient path, how do I figure out what the most efficient path is?
You're shooting the most.
Like that a lot, right? So, well, you're gonna do the same amount of shooting, right? But the one where you're not shooting the least.
There you go.
Yeah, right? So what a lot of people will do when we're looking at different paths is a step count, right? Which is kind of close to being correct. However, if I have to walk a little bit farther, but I can stay shooting the whole time, I'll do that almost every single time. So if we're gonna do a step count, I would do a step count, I would walk the stage, but I'm only gonna count the steps that I have to take while no shooting is available. How many steps of not shooting are there on this path, right? So if we're gonna look at paths on the stage, like what are the likely candidates? What paths, I'm not talking about where to take targets, but like just looking on the ground and talking about like from point A to point B, what are the likely paths we could think about doing? Starting there? Yeah, like regardless of what you do, it's probably gonna be pretty difficult to not talk me into going there first. It's so close to start position, right? And then I could go there and essentially go all the way around. Or is there anything else I could think about?
You could go right up the front here.
I could come up here and then I could work up and then come around this way, right? So those are kind of the two things you could think about. Some people would reject this outright because it's got like retreating involved. We're going to work on that here in a little bit. I want that to be a tool in your toolbox that you're not scared of using. If there's a more efficient path on a stage that requires you to do some retreating, that's totally fine. It's really not that big of a deal. You just have to know how to do it quickly and efficiently, and also safely, not only in terms of like gun safety, but in terms of not getting DQ'd safety, right? So we'll talk about that kind of stuff a little bit. But let's flesh these out. Now, in order to figure out which one of these paths is the most efficient, you kind of have to fully flesh out the plan to know like which targets you're going to shoot where before I can know like how many steps of not shooting would be required along that path, right? So let's say we start back here where Owen is. Let's think the path first. I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go this way, right? So if I come here, let's say I'm not going to take the steel from here. What target should I take first here?
The open left one.
Right one?
Yeah.
Right.
Inside one.
How come?
I'd take the left one.
You take the left one, and then you can
Then you start back
on the exit.
Yeah, so it's obviously super like intuitive is to take that right one first because it's quote unquote available first. However, what do I have to do before I can shoot that either one of those targets?
Draw.
Draw the gun and
Step in.
step into the shooting area. So the question is, if I do both of those things at the same time, by the time the gun actually gets out, right, are either one of those targets actually available first, or are they both available at the earliest possible moment I could be shooting anyway? Okay,
Both,
so does
yeah.
taking the left one first buy me any additional options?
Yes.
Which is
Shooting as
either
you exit.
backing out right on that target. You can think about it like shooting on the move, or at least, right, if you're shooting it really quickly, like I can start at least getting that momentum going, like shifting that weight, right, to where I'm able to explode out of that position a little bit more aggressive, right? Then I go left to right. Then what am I going to do over here? Okay, yeah, I can shoot that one coming in, obviously, and then I'm going to finish up front. Where do I start shooting that one, though?
Reverse engineer.
Outside.
Somebody
Yeah.
was paying pretty good attention.
Find out
All right.
see that one.
So obviously I'm going up that corner, right? So I'm probably going to come right through here and cut across, right? So I figure out, hey, I might as well take that head box and as close to it as freaking possible, right? No reason to make it harder. JJ said to me years ago, he's like, man, I'm a way better GM from 5 yards closer. I was like, Roger that, and that makes sense to me. So take that from as close as possible. If I start here and I kind of go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, take it here. Typically, people like the first intuitive thing people want to say is, well, you take it as soon as it's available. And it's like, well, no, again, it's available from all the way freaking over here. So there's no reason to shoot it from 6 yards farther away than I need to. I'm gonna have to go da bop bop and then break down again and run closer to the target before I'm shooting again. Right? I just want to start shooting it at the point where I can finish going all the way through. So I have an idea where that first shot would be. So I know I need my gun to be up a step or two before I even get there. Right? So I come across that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Timing worked out pretty good. Right? So you can kind of test that in your walkthrough. What do I do up here? Obviously going to the corner. So what's like the first target I'm gonna shoot?
So you're allowed to shoot that steel from this spot?
100%.
Okay. All right. So you got a bit of difficulty because it's tight and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
So, look, I'm thinking that's probably not great doing that.
Okay.
So, because you've got a little bit of difficulty and you've got like an attack target, you might want to choose to do that.
Okay.
Then that, and then roll around that, and then that as you move out.
Okay.
Or if you feel like you want to do it, but I find it's a hard, like steel's a hard target to settle on. Obviously, going all the way from left to right is ideal if you can take the steel first up.
So great idea in terms of efficiency on an entry, right? I mean, man, if I'm going to come in on that paper, I'm going to come in on the steel, I'm probably going to be pretty stable. So I'm going to come into the shooting area and I'm going to go, bam, right? If I come in on the paper, like I don't even have to have both feet in the shooting area yet.
Yeah.
I can come in and just be like, bam, bam, ding, right? So I can start shooting way sooner.
Yeah.
So I like that idea, first of all. Use an easy target on the entry when it makes sense to start shooting sooner. Great idea. Now, of course, next thing I'm going to do, let's think about this out a little bit further, though, is go over there. So let's assume no matter what, I'm leaving this zone. What am I going to do next? And we'll come back and figure this out. What am I doing next?
Shots you can take next?
Yes. The only two
in that
targets that are
area.
available are those two,
Yes.
right? Let's assume I come in on those two. What am I going to want to shoot after those two?
The one next exposure?
But you don't want to overrun that steel either.
That's right.
Here's why this is important. So,
You can shoot the steel from here. Yeah, that's my plan.
yeah. sorry, they give me a shorter barrel. They gave me a block of steel. So here's what I'm getting at. If I do this array essentially left to right, right, I come here, ding, da-da, I'm stuck. I can't move until after I figured that target. So maybe yes, can I go ding, ding, da-da, and get like half a step? Yes. But now I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, and now there's like nothing else for me to really do. Like I have to have some movement here. Is there any way that I could engage this array that would allow me to cover some ground coming out of here while I'm still shooting? Again, there's only one target that keeps me anchored in that corner.
Yeah.
So
Right.
shoot that.
So what if I use that attack target? Like the idea is still the same. I can have my gun up here as I step in, and as soon as this foot leaves the ground, can I go bop and then set up and hit the difficult target? Yes. Now I can go 1, 2, 3,
Attack,
4.
control.
Ding. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what am I set up for?
Steel.
Right? Before I overrun the steel. Now, could I take that paper? Because it's next. Yes. However, for most folks, if you really do cover ground here, and I get to the steel, and then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm already at risk of almost overrunning the steel. So if I add another target in there, it's going to kind of make me go da-da, right? And now I'm at risk of overrunning the steel. Even if I remember to stop, right? And I go, just stand here still, and I go 1, 2, ding, da-da-da-da. I still have to get over there. So again, that's a target I can use to collect points while I get to that position, which isn't going to happen until later, right? So maybe what I want to do is just simply come in on those two, 1, 2, 3, 4, post up, hit that steel, ding, probably go to this one, right? Ding, 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 bop, bop, and then I'm set up for that one without having to ever stop shooting the whole time, right? With that obviously being the goal. So there's a plan there. So now we're going to do our step count, and we're going to figure out how many steps of our shooting are involved in the plan. So if I come here, no matter what, both of our plans involve stepping here first. So let me just not even count that. That's gonna be the same either way, right? I'm gonna step in and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, straight down and go 1, 2, 3. Right now I'm shooting. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, basically. Right? Shooting. Da 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 ding. Da 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 ding da da da. I only took 8 steps in there when I wasn't shooting. Okay? Now let's think about the other plan. So, if I was going to come here and then go up, I still need to stay from here.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm going left, right?
I'm saying, would I still go right to left
Oh.
or left to right? Or does it change at all?
Left to right. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to back out this way anymore.
Yeah. But
Right,
you can
Right?
still go
So,
ahead.
could I come in and go this way a little bit? I could. Could I just as easily, kind of come in right foot first and go 1, 2, 3, 4 as I come up? Right? So there's a couple different options, but I'm basically going to shoot my way into up here somewhere. Now, what would I do next?
Use the barrel on the way up.
The target that's open.
Yeah, those are kind of available. They're not really supposed to be available quite this soon. But let's just say I take them and I go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what?
I got nothing to do.
Nothing really to do. What's the next position I'm going to? Probably that corner. Okay, so I would come up to the corner. How am I going to work out of this corner? Probably basically reverse the plan we just did, right? So
Left to
if
right.
I come here and I go, ding, hit this steel. Now I can kind of back out on these a little bit, right? Now I've got to break down. This is not really available yet. So how do you think I should come into this position, knowing I have to finish back there?
Reloading.
Yeah, so that's a great point. This is the first time someone brought up reloading. Now we have to talk about reloads. So I intentionally have ignored reloads thus far. What a lot of people do is get on the stage, particularly this was a real big issue when everyone was shooting low cap, which essentially no one does anymore, right? At least in USPSA. But for low cap shooters especially, we'd get on the stage and be like, okay, where can I reload? And we just look for big gaps of not shooting on the stage. And a lot of times you create big gaps of not shooting that didn't need to be there.
So that you can
Obviously less
reload.
efficient.
Yeah.
So like what I do is I get on the stage and I imagine I have enough rounds in the gun to shoot the whole stage without reloading. Figure out what is the most efficient path. And then, okay, along that path, where's the best place to reload if I need to? Here's why this is important. As an example, let's imagine that the only 2 gaps of not shooting you have are right at the beginning and right at the end along your most efficient path. But you don't have enough, if you reload right at the beginning, you don't have enough ammo to make it the whole way. I will 100%, I'm not afraid of reloading twice, right? Even if I could just reload once in the middle and force that reload to happen in the middle, if it's less efficient because it forces me to stop shooting when I should have been collecting points, when I could just reload twice and it doesn't disrupt anything, I'll 100% do that, right? So, we're gonna ignore reloads for right now. So, I'm not reloading. What should I come in on over here, we think?
Steel or the open?
Yeah, maybe the steel. Like, we could do it in exactly the reverse, right? So we could come in here and, you know, go steel and then go paper. What do you think I should do here? The same thing? You know, I could either use that paper to really set up in the corner and hit that one and then just leave. Or, you know, if I really nail the footwork, you know, could I come in, put that, and then maybe like start the movement or something a little bit as I come out here? Yes, but I really need to be turned that way, right? So it's not very useful. So probably making sure I get set up here, see that paper, break down, just run all the way back here, set up, and finish these. Is that pretty much what everybody's thinking? Okay. Let me,
It doesn't feel as efficient.
It doesn't. Because I think it's a retreating piece and got a back.
Seems like there's no value to retreat if you don't have to there.
okay. So really, one thing we didn't really figure out is when do I start shooting now? Because it was available from way back here. But again, I pretty much do a reverse planning deal, right? So I know, hey, I'm going to get back to this corner. That's the next one that I have. So if I go, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I probably start shooting about here, right? Something like that. So I got the same step 1 into my first shooting position, right? Some version of 1, 2, 3, 4. No shooting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dot, 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 dot. 7, 8, dot, 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 dot. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Right, so now I know, and that's an extra 5 steps of not shooting to use that path on the stage. That's more than it usually is, but the stage is never exactly the same twice. Right, so that's kind of the process of using the stage. That requires a lot of work. Right, but if you, a lot of times if you really want to figure out, again, especially if it's really close, 1 or 2 steps difference, you're like, man, it's not apparent to me which one of these 2 steps is better. Doing that kind of step count process, how many steps of not shooting are involved, is really kind of a foolproof way to figure out which one of the 2 is most efficient when you're looking at multiple.
If you have 2 that are pretty much the same
Mhm.
in step count, would you then go to reloads and think, is one of these better for reloads?
Sure, you can double check that. You can think about, you know, is one of them simply easier in the shooting, or does one of them work to my strengths better, right? Or if like all else being equal, like which one do I like better? Like it's totally fine, right? But if one of them is purely more efficient, like I want to be aware of that, right? Even, you know, look, even if one is more efficient, you're like, man, that's way harder to do. Is that a consideration? For sure. However, here's kind of a note on using like local matches to get better, right? What a lot of people will tell you in terms of stage playing at locals is like, man, you just don't ignore what the GMs are doing. Like you gotta put a plan together that works to your strengths. And it's like, yes, if your grand aspiration in life is to shoot as well as you possibly can at this local match, you are correct with the current skills you have available. If your grand aspiration is to get better at shooting, and the GMs are doing something that you can't do with confidence, that's a pretty good indication of something you need to work on, right? So you have 2 options. Let's say a GM's taking a 15-yard partial on the move. You're like, I don't think I can do that. Okay, well, you got 2 options. You can either be like, I'm just gonna make a note of that and go work on that later, or you can try it at the match, right? 1 or 2 things is gonna happen if you try it. Sometimes it's gonna go way better than expected, in which case you're like, you know what? I've been doubting myself too much. That's something I can actually do. Here's a confidence boost, right? You also might suck, in which case you're like, hey, once again, there's my homework. Now I know what to go work on, right? A lot of people really struggle figuring out what do I need to be working on in practice. To me, that's a surefire way. Like if there's things you can't do at the match that you should be able to do because other people are doing them that are just like plumbers or whatever, you know, your local GMs, like, man, like, there you go. That's what you need to get better at. That's your thing, right? So that was free side note. I'm charging after that. Okay. So now, right, along our checklist, what we've kind of figured out is where are the targets? I did a typo. Where are the targets?
No
What
autocorrect.
are my 4 shooting positions? What's the most efficient path as determined by steps not shooting? Now I'll check the reload thing. Reloads. So where are the spots, assuming we've picked path that we're going to do we know is most efficient, where are the big gaps of not shooting on the stage where a reload might make sense?
Well, right here's
One right here. However, it is right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so the question is, after you've shot 4 rounds, do you still have 26 rounds in the gun, presuming you shoot no makeups to finish the stage? Most of us, the answer is probably no. It's not going to be good enough. You see right here, probably the most obvious place on the stage to reload. However, how many rounds are still to shoot in front of that?
Well, it's taking 6, 10, so 20. 30 rounds or 32?
I think it's 20.
20?
Yeah. So, and it's 2 pieces of pretty tight steel in there. So that basically the whole question is, do you feel confident approaching the front of that, array with only 20 rounds in the gun, basically? Or, yeah, I'm sorry, with however many rounds you got in the gun and 20 rounds of shooting to do, right? So again, that's gonna be a question. I 100% will be doing that, right? But again, like you have to make that decision based upon, hey, am I gonna be taking makeup, so on and so forth. If I know, hey, I'm entering into, a situation where I am ammo limited, like, might you just consider bumping that confirmation level up 1 or 2 steps, right? 100%. Just be like, hey, I'm going to guarantee the hits on this. And there's not a shot on this stage that any of you guys can't make. I feel very confident saying that. The only question is, will you have enough patience to make it the first time? That's the only question, right? All of you can make it. If you center the dot on every target and have your trigger prepped, you will hit every target on the stage, 100%, right? So that's kind of the deal there. If let's say I didn't have, if I wasn't confident in that, and I don't want to reload here because I'm not sure I have enough, where else might I consider reloading?
Leaving that corner and give yourself a room.
Yeah, in which case, does that change the plan anymore? Because again, my whole idea, I'm moving on this and even moving on those, is I'm trying to use these targets to give me something to do across this gap. So now if I have something else to do, i.e. reloading, might that change the way I attack these targets?
Could.
Yeah, you might go left to right, so you could stay.
Might go left to right,
Yeah.
100%. To me, I still kind of like the right to left, but that's me personally, like the way I look at this array. Like, it's super easy to come in on this 5-yard target. I know for sure I'm set up on this, in this corner, that kind of thing. And maybe I don't feel necessary to move. It's like da-da, ding, and I go ahead and reload, and I come in on those 2. Or maybe I do the same thing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ding, and then I reload and don't even worry about those 2, right? Because I'm doing my reload and I just come straight on the steel, and I go ding, da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? I might change up the arrays a little bit based on the fact that I'm reloading here, right? You'll notice that the path didn't change. It's still the most efficient path, right? Might I tweak small things like target arrays and so forth based on the fact that I'm fitting a reload in here? Yes. But the path is still the same. We still figured out the path we want to take on the stage, right? So now I'm thinking reloads. What else, based on what we talked about yesterday, might I want to work into my stage plan?
Confirmations.
Aha! Confirmation levels. So, and then what I'll add to that is just specific spots as well. As an example, on these targets yesterday, we had a lot of hits up in this region. Why? Not a shooting problem, just looked in the wrong spot, right? So when you're walking the stage ahead of time, you should be making a note of, hey man, that's a freaking upside down target. I should be aiming there, right? Picking specific spots. Same thing goes with our partials. I don't think I set up any super interesting partials, but let's create a challenge to look at. So if we had a partial, something like that, right? I would very much so not want to approach this and just like wing it and figure out where I want to aim as I'm shooting the target. Like, I'd want to pick a spot ahead of time, ideally, where I'm going to aim on the target. So what do we think? Okay, so maybe somewhere, in here. Any other thoughts?
If it gets this small,
Yep.
would you then?
Let's just assume we're not doing that for right now.
Okay.
For the sake of discussion.
Maybe here?
I mean,
Yeah, a little bit.
If
So,
you're just
like,
counting more for vertical?
Honestly, like what a
What
lot of people do intuitively is aim like here, like basically at the corner of the perf, right? So, but here's the thing to think about. Like, what's worse,
missing?
A no-shoot or a pure mic? You're very unlikely to shoot a no-shoot and not realize it. Like that's very apparent. A lot of people could wing one over that shoulder and not realize it very easily, right? So we think about like the risk factors on this target, like what's likely to happen, and I measure like how far is it from there to there versus from here to here, right? You know, a lot of people are justifying. They're so scared of the no-shoot that they're justifying that point of aim like really close to like the mic zone, without even like realizing, okay, that's kind of silly. If I actually just take the middle of these two things, like it's putting me right where Owen said in the beginning, I think, and giving me a way higher chance of 2 alphas, right? So, but this is the kind of thought process I'd be going through ahead of time as we're doing the stage plan, right? Where do I want to aim on every single one of these targets? So picking specific spots and thinking about confirmation levels.
Where would you aim, personally?
Yeah, right there.
Which one?
Yeah, probably, you know, right in there somewhere, right there up in the
So like
corner.
cutting the difference between there and what's over here.
Yeah, essentially.
So you have,
You know, again, the idea is going to change every time the exposure percentage changes.
right?
You know, the
right.
idea is going to change. If I got that, I'm just probably going to put the dot right in the middle.
Yep.
And just guarantee 2 alphas, right?
If you're further away, you'd think about it differently.
Yeah, we would do it.
If you're further away, you think you'd go to the original portion.
Yeah, I mean, if I was far enough away that that's really concerning to me, I'm still going to probably think about like what's the middle of those two things,
Yeah.
and you know, justify it there. So that's not really a big difference. But like what I aim, again, no reason to aim up here because I'm just so close to that mic anyway.
In
So that
those
doesn't make sense.
situations, there's never. At what point in time do you go, I'm going to scrap this and go for a credit card?
Yeah, for sure. So like in the event that, you know, if the exposure of your A zone essentially matches the credit card,
Okay.
you have a couple, you know, decisions to make based upon distance, right? So if I'm close enough that I'm really confident putting, you know, 2 in one of those A zones, like might I go up there? Like 100%. If I'm far enough away that I'm like worried about missing the target entirely, might you just like aim in the middle of what's available? You could also do that, right? So that's gonna be like slightly dependent on distance for sure. But at a certain point, like again, I would encourage us to not be afraid of no shoots. We should just be picking the correct confirmation level that's gonna allow us to definitely not hit the no shoot, right? And then have the patience to stick with it, right? So presuming we have that tool in the toolbox, as soon as that A zone becomes significantly easier to hit than that one, I'm gonna start using that one, right? The fact that there's a no shoot there, again, like, man, look how close that is to a mic. I gotta be just as careful here, if not more careful, right? So as soon as that A zone becomes easier to hit than that one, I'm gonna switch to that one, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Super helpful.
Okay, yeah, that was another free tangent. Okay, so we're gonna go through the stage thing about confirmation levels. Let's just talk through it a little bit. I don't think there's anything like super interesting, but like, so what confirmation levels would I use on these?
2.
It's like a 6-yard open target.
Probably one,
Yeah, 1 or 2, depending on the skill set, right? What about, say, head box over here?
3.
2, 3.
2 or 3 if you're like really trying to guarantee, you know, actual A zone hits. Like again, depending on skill set. Zach, come over here. What about the far target behind the wall back there?
That's 3.
Would be a 3 for me. I'll tell you right now.
Over traveling with that
Come
no
on here,
shoot.
Come on here, stop and let's steal.
3.
Another free tangent. Any difference in how we aim at steel versus how we aim at paper?
No.
A little bit, yeah.
How so?
Because you don't want to miss because it's like cost you half a second.
You don't want to miss paper either.
True.
Yeah, but you can still take points and keep moving off it.
Correct. Yes. So, on the paper target, what do I want to hit? The A zone. What happens if I miss what I want to hit by just a little bit?
I'm
get it.
proud.
Still
Charlie,
get
right?
points.
Still get points. If you have one Charlie on a stage, you're gonna be like super sad. No. So what that means is, if I see my dot hanging, you know, halfway on the alpha and halfway off, I'm just gonna send it at match pace, probably, right? Good enough. However, if I have a big white piece of steel, right, what do I want to hit on the steel?
The steel.
The steel. What happens if I miss what I want to hit on the steel, but just a little bit?
Costs you a lot of
Not a
time.
damn thing, right? So now if I see my dot hanging halfway on what I want to hit and halfway off, am I just gonna send it?
Nope.
No. I need to put it in the middle. So you almost have to imagine like there is an A zone in the middle of that thing, and that's what I'm kind of aiming for. So I have some of that elbow room, right? So if we kind of use that same, you know, that's a little bit bigger than an A zone, right? But I would not use the same confirmation level on a paper target at that distance versus that piece of steel, even though the thing I want to hit is the same size, right? Because the forgiveness just isn't there, right? So note on steel. Yeah, for me, I'm going to want to stop that dot in the middle, 100%. Again, the time it costs to try to shoot confirmation 2 on that, or the time it saves, is super hard to measure. And it is going to probably result, even for me, in some mics sometimes. So stop that in the middle, 100%. Yeah, the rest of it should be pretty obvious, right? So I think that's enough for now. We're actually going to add a couple things to the list after we talk movement and so forth today. Here's a good list of things to think about. Now, that is a lot of stuff already. You ever heard people making jokes about like a GM make ready? How long it takes, people to make ready and stuff? Man, it's because we got a lot of shit to think about. Right? So it's a lot of stuff. So how in the world do I keep all this straight? Can I be thinking through all of this stuff as I'm shooting the stage? Well, first of all, if your shooting fundamentals aren't subconscious, now you really have no shot. You really have no shot anyway in terms of thinking through these things on the stage. So, in terms of memorizing and actually programming in this plan to where we can execute it, a couple things. Number one, we really do have to memorize every single piece of this, and memorize the entire stage during the walkthrough portion, to the point where you should be able to, look away from the stage and be like, okay, I'm going to take, off the bat, am I stepping with the right foot or the left foot? It's coming on that target. I'm going to back out on this one. It's like 3 steps, that spot on the ground where the gun's coming up, coming in on the open target. This one's upside down, so I'm aiming a little bit low, coming up to the head box as I step forward out of the fault line, reloading as I come across, coming on the close open one. Just know every single piece of the stage. Like if there's a partial, you should know, what orientation that partial is on the target without looking at it, where exactly you're going to aim. Every single piece of that you should know and have memorized. From there, programming in piece. Every single top shooter that I know is using visualization as a big tool for the stage planning process. So visualization. So this is again involved in actually getting off the stage, whether you look away from the stage, whether you close your eyes, whatever it is, but not looking at the stage, and kind of essentially playing that video, if you will, in your head of you actually shooting the stage. Just look really close to like you had hat cam footage of you shooting a stage. Like that's what you want your visualization process to look like in your head. If you're just seeing every single thing you're doing, playing it through at real time. The one thing I kind of add to that hat cam footage is what my dot's going to look like, right? So as a part of the confirmation level planning, I'm actually going to pay attention to how is my dot going to come on every target, right? So when I visualize this first piece, it's going to be flash of red dot, and I'm going to actually think about that. I'm just going to see that flash of red, pull the trigger twice. Over here, I'm going to see that dot coming in, wait for it to cross the perf, bam, bam, confirmation 2. On that steel, I'm programming in my visualization, seeing the dot stop in the middle, wait, bam, right? Programming in that confirmation level as well, and watching that visualization process. How many times do you need to go through that? Well, first of all, if as you go through that visualization process, any question marks occur, you're like, wait a minute, what target was that? Start over. You gotta get back, look on the stage, be like, yes, okay, start over. And until you can play through with no question marks. From there, I don't really think it's possible to visualize too much. Not a big fan, but guys like Steve Anderson, for example, will coach them, you gotta visualize like 20 to 40 times before stage. That's a lot. However, like on complex stages, man, I've seen, Max Michelle go in the safety area and visualize the stage for like 45 minutes before we're getting ready to run, right? Again, it can only help. A lot of people are just like thinking about it once or twice, done. Like I'm gonna go talk to my buddies or whatever. It's like fine, if you're here as a social event, like to drink beer and like play golf on the weekend type stuff, then that's cool. If you really want to if you're actually very serious about your performance, making sure you have that plan really down and programmed in is really big. Now, you may be thinking, well, hey, even at our locals, maybe we only have like 5 minutes or whatever to develop a stage plan. Correct, which is why it's absolutely impossible to really thoroughly go through a stage planning process in the walkthrough time on the stage. Can't do it, which means you have to do it some other time, i.e. early. So even at a local, I'm gonna get there at least an hour early and walk through every stage, have my plan totally down on the stage, right? We get on the stage, walk through it once, twice, just make sure I haven't forgotten anything, I know exactly what I'm doing, get off, visualize, right? It's kind of the process. Same thing at majors, right? Every single major I've ever shot across the country, no matter what day you're shooting, people are shooting the day before. If you're shooting the first day of the match, the staff is shooting the day before. So you can go there the day before or the morning before or whatever and get on the match and actually walk those stages you're going to shoot that day and have all your plans down. highly, highly recommended on that piece. So we've got our checklist. Again, I worked out my plan. Not everybody has to go through the exact plan that I just fleshed out, right? Everyone's got different skill sets. You may or may not want to shoot certain things on the move, right? You got different equipment, different amounts of ammo, maybe different places you're gonna reload, all that kind of stuff, right? But so tweak that as much as you want. Come up with your plan for you. Walk through it. I want to see everybody off the stage, not looking at the stage, visualizing, really kind of programming that thing in, and then we'll shoot it here and there. If anybody's got questions or want to talk through specific things on the stage, flag me down.
I have a question.
Yes.